Good afternoon and welcome to our regular council meeting for April 21st, 2025. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional territories and the oral practices of the Blackfoot Nation, which include the Siksika, the Kainai, and the Piikani. We also acknowledge the Tsuut'ina, the Stoney Nakoda First Nations, the Métis Nation District 4, and all people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta. We're making this acknowledgement to demonstrate our continuing efforts to work together as we strive for reconciliation through increased and collective learning. Okay, we'll start off the afternoon. We've got some introductions here. First of all, to Recreation and Protective Services, Manager of Administration, Amy Romans, the first introduction here.
Thank you. Through the chair to Mayor and Council, I'd like to introduce Martin Taylor, who is the Interim Director of Recreation and Protective Services. He started on April 7th and will be here for approximately 3 months. And he brings experience in municipal government from both Alberta and BC. So welcome.
Welcome to the City of Brooks. Okay, we've got another staff introduction, Utility Foreman Greg Digwong.
Through the chair to Mayor and Council, I'd like to introduce our new team member, Rob Brown. He comes from Coldell as a utility operator, and he's here as a utility operator too.
Okay, well, welcome to the City of Brooks. And since you're officially with the city, you don't have to sit through our council meeting, eh? Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. I'm going to make a move on the agenda. I'm going to move 7A to the top here. So 7A will go to the top. So I'm going to need a motion here, moved by Councillor Nesbitt, that the agenda be adopted as amended. All those in favor? Okay. And then we'll go to 7A. I need a mover for this motion here, that Amy Romans be appointed as acting CEO for the City of Brooks effective immediately. Need a mover, Councillor Jessica. I just want to comment on that. She'll be here on an interim basis until we get another interim person. Well, our regular CEO is out here now too. So, okay. So to the motion, all those in favor? Carried. Okay, moved by Councillor Idris that the minutes from the regular council meeting held April 7th, 2025, and the special council meeting held April 15th, 2025 be approved. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, need a motion to approve the RCMP report. We'll do that after the report there. Sergeant Searle, how are you doing this afternoon?
Good, thank you, Mayor. This is my report for March 2025. During that month, we responded to 380 municipal calls for service. We lodged a total of 31 prisoners and conducted 83 criminal record checks. We also issued 43 violation tickets. Some miscellaneous investigations and events from March. On the 4th, around 7:22 p.m., we responded to a stabbing in the industrial area. EMS also attended and transported the victim to a local hospital, and then he was later airlifted by STARS to Foothills with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Our investigation indicated that there was an altercation between two individuals that were known to each other. We have identified a suspect and issued a warrant for his arrest. And on the 14th, Medicine Hat Police arrested the 22-year-old suspect, and he's been remanded into custody. On March 5th, 6:50 p.m., one of our crime reduction unit members observed a prolific offender in the area of Meadowbrook. The male was wanted on multiple outstanding warrants, including 5 counts of failing to comply, 1 count of failing to attend court, 3 counts of possession of stolen property, and 1 count of possession of a controlled substance. Upon spotting the officer, the male attempted to flee but was quickly apprehended after a foot chase. And as a result of this, we laid additional 6 counts of failing to comply and 3 counts of possession of property obtained by crime. And that male was remanded and remains in custody. On March 11th at 4 p.m., we executed a search warrant on a residence in Brooks. The investigation pertained to a stolen bicycle. While conducting the search, we located a .22 caliber rifle in the residence. No one inside the residence was allowed to possess any firearms, and that rifle was seized. A 29-year-old male has been charged with firearms offenses and is scheduled to appear in court at the end of April. The stolen e-bike was later located abandoned in an alley. Then on March 12th, around 9 a.m., Brooks RCMP and the RCMP Emergency Response Team executed a search warrant for firearms on a residence in Sunny Lee. During the search, we located a sawed-off rifle along with ammunition and some replica firearms and a large knife. One of the males inside the residence had conditions that prevented him from possessing weapons, so he was charged with those offenses, and several other charges were laid against 2 males. And that's my report for the month of March. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, any questions? Councillor Woodruff.
I am just looking at the statistics. I noticed the offensive weapons instances were way up. I'm just trying to find it here. I think it was like maybe 11 compared to, like, it's at least double what it typically is. Is that just due to these last 2 instances on the searches on the 11th and 12th?
Yeah, we had the 2 firearms searches, which would boost those numbers up, and I think there was a couple other just one-off files that ended
Okay.
up boosting that number up, so.
And offensive weapons, what does that entail? Is that just guns or?
Well, any
Other
weapon, so guns,
offensive
knives.
ones?
If there's a charge laid that pertains to a weapon, so illegal possession of a firearm, that would count for sure. So.
Okay, any other questions? Okay,
All righty,
perfect.
thank you.
Thank you for your time this afternoon. Yeah, I'll do that now, yeah. Okay, I need a mover for the motion to accept the RCMP report. Councillor Goodenough? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, I need a mover for this motion here, that the following items of correspondence be received as information on updates, council conferences, and workshops. Mover for that motion, Councillor Woodruff. I didn't ask ahead of time. Does anybody got any council conferences or workshops? Nothing to report. Okay, let's go to the motion then. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, I need a mover for this motion that council adopt the 2024 financial statements as presented. Mover for that motion, Councillor Goodenough. Okay, this will be Director of Finance, Bill McKinnon. Your show.
Through your worship, representatives from KPMG are in attendance, and
Yep.
after I do my report, they will be providing an audit opinion as external auditors. Just a couple typos in the report under the discussion items. In the second line there, delete KMMG, and it should be KPMG. And I'm a year behind under the council options. The first option is council accepted 223, consolidated audited financial statements as presented. That should be 224. The recommendation is correct, but sorry, that wasn't corrected. Before I start, I'd just like to thank staff that were paramount in the development and presentation and review of the financial statements. In the audience today, we have our supervisor of financial planning, Kathy Slaney, and another critical staff person who isn't in the room, our financial analyst, was also crucial to make sure the statements were prepared. I'd like to give kudos because this was the first year that they were actively involved in the presentation and review and consolidation of the statements. So that being said, the city is required under the MGA to prepare annual financial statements in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. That has been done, and I believe the auditor will attest to that. The Financial statements are under separate cover, and I again apologize for the lateness of council receiving the report, but we did have a session last week during the committee of the whole, gave council an overhead of what to expect in the financial statements. This has been consistent with the quarterly financial reports that council's been receiving throughout the year. So I'm pleased to say that there's no significant variances between the quarterly financial reports council's received and these final financial statements. Again, there's various statements, various schedules within the financial statements. I'd just like to repeat a couple of things that I said during last week's meeting. Again, the financial statement include non-cash adjustments for amortization and other non-cash items such as asset retirement obligations and employee benefit obligations. In terms of the operating and capital budgets of the city, we do provide contributions to reserves, but when it comes to the financial statement presentation, we alter the presentation to meet accounting standard guidelines, which says we must reflect amortization whether we budget for it or not. And that's the big difference between what you see in the quarterly financial statements, what you see in your annual budget, and obviously there'll be variances from the budget based on that. The financial statements in a separate note does provide a reconciliation of the approved budget to the financial statements. That being said, I'd just like to give an overview of some of the key trends, as I mentioned in the last session at the Committee of Council. Council should be looking at the trends and where trends are happening in the financial statements. So we have a 5-year trending history of some of the key financial indicators. Net financial assets, basically, that's difference between what the city owns and what we owe others. So you can see that's been trending favorably since 2019, increasing. So our net financial assets have been trending upwards. There's been a couple little blips, but overall it's trending upwards. Our non-financial assets, again, this is the major assets the city has. Those are the value of our bridge, road network, sewer plants, recreation facilities, and the like. That's been holding its own. You can see in some years there's been slippage. That all depends on the net investment that happens through the annual capital program. Cash, there's some good news there. The city's cash position has been improving throughout the years, and that's reflected in our reserve balances. In addition to our reserve balances, we have money on hand that's been set up as deferred revenue related to various grant programs. So the big measure is this thing we call the accumulated surplus, and that's the value of assets the city has to deliver services for the residents into the future. I would be concerned if that showed a negative trend. The good news is it's showing a more positive trend, trending from roughly 145 million in 2019 up to 149 million in 2024. Council will see significant improvements as major investments are made, specifically in the next couple of years as upgrades to the sewer facilities happen. There'll be significant improvements to that particular accumulated surplus line. Of course, it all has to be financed, and that project is on the books to happen in the next few years with a bit of debt for sure. Other key measures, you can see our long-term debt has been reduced with outstanding debt in 2019 being roughly 7.4 million, being substantially reduced to 2.7 million by the end of fiscal 2024. There are no new debt issuances planned for the next 3 years, so you'll see that number declining each and every year for the next few years. That's a good news story. The debt limit, which is the amount of borrowing that the municipality could undertake, is also improving, so it basically is a good news story. Yes, council will be making decisions on significant capital reinvestments, specifically related to water and sewer, but there's adequate debt capacity to manage those issues. Again, tangible capital assets, this is the challenge. In 2019, we had roughly 225 million. In 2024, it's roughly 227 million. So this is reflective of the investment council's made in the renewal of assets in the city. The big question is, has it been enough? So you see this thing called NPV, which is net book value of our assets. Our assets are also, even though council's been reinvesting, assets are depreciating. So you don't see as big of an increase in that line. So city's been holding its own, but consistently you'll hear me saying during the annual budget presentations that additional investment will be required to keep the assets in a good state of repair. And the last two lines are really for information, but I'd just like to draw your attention to the last line, which is amortization, that is reflected in the financial statement, that is different from what is in the budget as contributions to reserves. So in our budget, we do provide the equivalent of amortization, but it's around the $4 million mark in 224. Hypothetically, the amortization model is suggesting we should be funding at a higher level. That being said, some assets are better financed through debt servicing than annual contributions to reserves, so it's a balancing approach. If council has any particular questions on the details of the financial statements, I would be pleased to answer those prior to the auditor providing an opinion.
Clarification on the amortization. Are you saying if we amortize 6.5 million in the 1 year, we should be banking that money somewhere? Did I hear that right?
Not necessarily. Again, what I'm saying is that's the theoretical model. If the city was putting around 6.5 million, 6.6 million, it would have enough in its reserves on an ongoing basis. The issue becomes when you have a big item like a sewer plant that's going to benefit future generations, how should you finance it? Should you place the burden on current ratepayers, or should you place the burden on those that are going to use that asset over the next 30 to 40 years?
30, 40, yeah.
So it's a blended, it's a proxy that's a good proxy, but again, there's more than contributions to reserves that municipalities can utilize. That is also a tool that municipalities can and should utilize depending on the investment and overall capital plan of the municipality. So it's a balancing act.
I'm just going to talk about the debt limit. We have a debt limit of 50 million. What determines that?
So it's a mathematical formula, and it's set prescriptive under the MGA regulations. It's basically 1.5 our own source revenues.
Yeah.
So as our revenues increase every year, whether that's through, revenues is everything. All our rates and fees, all our utility service charges, all the other revenues that the city generates. So as those increase, our debt ability to borrow under the regulations increases. That's not to say the minister wouldn't approve us exceeding that debt limit of 50 million. If we have the city has a financial plan, for instance, going back to the sewer upgrades, we will have a financial plan. If that's given to the minister and the minister says, yeah, they have a financial plan and there is a plan to increase rates or do whatever needs to be done to build that into the model, then the minister would waive that limit. So it's a guideline. It's there for sort of record keeping and benchmarking for the ministry, and council knows what potential they could utilize if they needed to in their long-term financial plan.
Yeah. And I believe, and you might, I don't know if you know the number, but I think our debt limit is pretty low compared to other municipalities in Alberta.
Yeah, we're in the single digits compared to other municipalities. If you bear with me for a second, during the budget deliberations, data was presented on our debt limit compared to other municipalities. Just give me 1 second here. Well, I won't need 1 second, I have it here.
Okay.
So Brooks, so these were the comparables. Brooks, in terms of debt limit use, And this, again, was at the end of 2023.
Yeah.
Was 9%. We're probably around 6.5%
Yeah.
at the end of 224. Chestermere was 4%. Stony Plain had used 41% of their debt limit. Cold Lake 54%. Lacombe 35%. Black Falls 44%. Coaldale had used 53%. Drumheller 16%. Beaumont 46%. The average for those municipalities was 30%. The average for all municipalities in the province is around 38%, excluding counties and MDs. But for urbans, the average is around 30%, 38% of their debt limit. Again, if you look at our reserve balances compared to those other municipalities, we're slightly below, but it's a combination of both factors that council should be looking at concurrently. How much do we have in reserves, and how much flexibility do we have to issue debt?
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Idris.
Thank you for the report and for the statement. My question is around the budget and the statement of operation mainly. So when I look at the budgets that we have developed, and mainly around the expenses, there is about a $7 million difference between the budget and the actuals, page 2. Is there anything we could do better to do a better budgeting? And I look at transportation, for example, like the trend between 2023 and 2024 is around that 5.5. We budgeted differently.
Sure. And this is the issue that's mainly being impacted by amortization. So if you go to page 27, which is Schedule 3, you can see that there is no budget for amortization of capital assets. So that variance is predominantly as a result of the financial statement presentation related to amortization. So there is no budget for amortization. We budget for contributions to reserves, and that's treated differently on the financial statements. But that's really what the big variance is. So to answer your question, can we do better? I think if council relies on the quarterly financial reports, that's a better indication of what departments are actually tracking at. Because we're not legally required to budget for amortization. It's not in the budget. That's a better reflective. So again, this is an anomaly to meet the Canadian accounting standards to basically say whether you budget and finance it or not. And as the mayor has alluded to, we're not doing the full 6.5%, but we are making roughly $4 million contribution in our tax rate to fund the reinvestment in our assets. So it's just a different financial presentation.
So the statement of operations also includes the amortization?
That's correct. All those items on Schedule 3 are included in that schedule on page 2.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. And do we hear from KPMG then, or? Okay.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Can the members of council hear me?
Very low, but we'll pick you up here.
We're just going to try to crank the volume.
Okay, let me know when I'm good to proceed.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, I think I lost my picture of council, but thank you for taking time out of your meeting to have us join you. So my name is Dan Bosters. I'm the partner on the City Brooks audit file, and with me I have Rachel Ruring, who is the manager that I'm going to say did all the heavy lifting for me. So I thank her for that. But just before I get into my discussion, I just want to say thank you to all the staff members from the city that helped us out and answered all of our questions and helped us get to where we are today. So I guess just a couple things. Hopefully everybody has a copy of the draft financial statements. I'll be specifically talking just about a couple of pages in the financials as Bill has already gone through some of the details and highlights of the actual financials. So in regards to the audit, we are at a point where we've done all the audit procedures that we're required to do, with the exception of completing our discussions with you here today, obtaining the council's approval of the financial statements, and completion of our subsequent event procedures up to the audit report date, which, subject to approval, will be today. And then, of course, receiving all of our signed representation letters and whatnot. So the financial statements that the portion that I'll be discussing is the independent auditor's report. So if hopefully everybody can find that page, it's about a couple pages in. And basically what that report indicates is that, again, subject to approval, we're prepared to issue what we call a clean opinion. And that opinion basically states, and I will read it, that in our opinion, the accompanying financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the entity, which is the city, as at December 31st, 2024, and its results of operations, changes in net financial assets, and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. And so that's the important paragraph. The actual audit report is about 3 pages long. The rest of the report goes into further details on management's responsibilities for the audit, as well as the auditor's responsibilities for the audit, as well as the basis for our opinion. But again, the important portion to note is the what we call that clean opinion. I used to joke about dating myself at the audit report. If you had 3 paragraphs, it was good, 4 paragraphs was bad. But with some of the changes in the auditing standards that have occurred over the last number of years, it's become more descriptive in terms of those responsibilities of management and the auditor as well, hence the increase in length of that report. So again, subject to approval, we will be prepared to issue that report dated today. Are there any questions in relation to that?
Any questions? No, I see none.
Okay. One thing that I did want to note is there is also a separate report on your municipal financial information return. We are still working through a couple of procedures related to that, but should have that completed shortly. And then again, we'll be able to issue the report, the audit report related to that financial information return, which is what gets filed with municipal affairs.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, and this has to be approved by the end of April here, right?
May 1st is the deadline.
The statement should be published by May 1st.
By May 1st, okay. Okay. Okay, no other questions? Okay, to the motion then, moved by Goodenough that council adopt the 2024 financial statements as presented. All those, did you have a question? No. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, carried. Okay, I need a mover for this motion that council approve the project budgets and funding sources for carry forward projects as detailed in Appendix A. Making that motion, we got Councillor Nesbitt. Okay, back with you, Mr. McKinnon.
Through the chair, through your worship, council will recall the 2025 budget deliberations dealt with the approval of new projects for 2025. This report gives council a snapshot of what happened to all the prior projects that were ongoing from 2024 and prior years. So what this report and the intent of the report, in prior years this was done at an administrative level. I don't think that was best practice, so that's why this report's before council. When the budget deliberations were occurring, that was in December, significant number of the capital projects, we did not know what the final cost would be because they were still ongoing, bills were still being paid and the like. So we've concluded that analysis now, and there is an Appendix A that lists the projects that were authorized by council in 2024. It shows the actual cost that were incurred and what remains in those projects that has to be carried forward to complete the projects. And it also lists, just for council's reference, what funding sources council's already previously allocated. So we're not recommending any change in financing. We're just basically saying these projects were not fully completed at the end of fiscal '24, and they're required therefore to be carried forward, and they have been included in the next report on a consolidated basis to bring those projects formally into the accounting system for 225. Previously, it just wasn't reported that way to council. It was just reported on an ongoing basis as an amendment through administration. So if council wished to defer one of these projects, specifically the ones that haven't started, that would be an option for council. We're not recommending that. We're recommending that this report be included. These reports would then be incorporated into the quarterly variance report. And during the next quarterly variance report, council not only can deal with these outstanding projects that are well underway in some cases. For instance, the skateboard park, council's very aware that that's being constructed in this year. The contract's been awarded. So it's kind of difficult to change that project now, but just for council's transparency, this is the approach we're using. So if there's any particular questions, I'd be pleased to answer them.
Any questions? Yeah, Councillor Idris.
So for the playground equipment replacement program, this is an annual thing we have every year. For the playground equipment replacement, this is something we have every year.
Yes and no. Administration's had a discussion on that, and you may see amendments to the budget. So the way it was presented in last year's budget was an annual program of 100,000. What should be presented in is what builds are going to happen. So there may be one in 226, there may be one, the next one may not be 228. The intent of last year's presentation to council was to say, we're looking for council to earmark 100,000 a year, but really in the capital plan, we should articulate to council when the capital expenditure is happening. So there may be a year where we skip a year and, it may happen and, so it may be 1 year, 3 years in a row, we may do a park, but that may defer any new expenditures for a new Sperry Park or playground equipment or those type of annual programs to a future year. So what you're seeing in the case of the playground equipment program, there was 80,000. The budget wasn't fully authorized or expended, and it's again, administration should be telling council that, well, really, rather than showing you how much money we're saving to do the expenditure in year 3, we should just be showing the program expenditure in its totality in the year we're asking council to expend the funds, not the savings plan. The savings plan's through the reserves. The capital budget is the expenditure when council expects those expenditures to occur. So that's why we have this variance of some carry forwards happening just for the sake of cash flow, because there wasn't enough cash to do the projects. Or in some cases, things might have just been, there could have been a larger piece of apparatus and there just wasn't enough funds. So again, it's a change in way we do the capital budget to make sure it reflects the expenditure plan, not the savings plan. I don't know if that helps you or not.
Does that work?
So are we going to have another 80,000 added this year and do something bigger, or are we?
That's correct. There was an additional money in the 225 budget. So when we get to the next report, you'll see the totality of what's available in 225 for these and the new 225 expenditures.
Okay.
Right. So I guess the point I'm making is we've had a discussion at the directors meeting to say, look, we've got to be more proficient. If you're not going to spend it this year, don't program it in the budget this year. Let's be more realistic of the timing of the expenditures. in the capital forecast.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Councillor Goodenough.
Just need clarification then on the broadband project with admin IT. Okay, so the budget's 1.5. We've spent to date then 756,000. Is that what we're saying? In 224.
Excuse me, in 224, yes.
And we have a carry forward expense still of, is that, am I understanding this correctly? 811,000 is still outstanding that we owe?
That's correct.
Okay, and then I guess my next question is going to be, when do we get an update of where we're at with the project?
I'll refer that question to the acting CEO. So I haven't been,
Sorry, Amy.
I haven't been involved in that
Okay.
discussion. So,
I'll withdraw that question.
Just going back to Councillor Goodenough, I think the total budget, I don't want to get into too many specifics
Right.
about this because I think we want to bring it back to council committee, but I think our total cost was about 5 million for broadband, but this is spread over several years, the 1.5 million, right? Is that what that is? Is that
the 1.5, if you look at it, this is a good example of what these carry forwards are about. The project started at roughly 5.5.
Yeah.
Money was spent. Then we might have carried 4 million. Money was spent. And at the end of 223, there would have been 1.5 million left. So that 1.5 million was carried forward. The city's been withholding some payments related to the project. So I did have one session with the vendor, and we're reconciling, let me leave it at that. So there are outstanding obligations related to the project for sure. We're still validating whether it's 811 or or whether it's a different number.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, but that 811 that is carried forward, we were going to spend 1.5 million in 2024, but we didn't spend it all, right? We spent 756,000, and so we got that other 811. So it's not a deficit, I believe. We're carrying that over. I mean,
That's
right.
correct. We still have 811,000 of resources
Yeah,
to commit to that project if needed.
this year. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions on that? Okay. Okay. To the motion then. Moved by Council Nesbitt. Council approved the project budgets and funding sources for carry forward projects as detailed in Appendix A. All those in favor? Carried. Okay. I need a mover for this motion here that council received the first quarter variance report 2025 for information. Need a mover for that motion. Councillor Jessica. And back again, Mr. McKinnon.
Again, through your worship, this is the first quarter variance report, and just to recap of what we're doing, the major change in the presentation of the variance reports, both on the operating side and capital side, is rather than just saying, here's where our annual budget is and we spent 20% of our budget, is that good or bad? Well, that doesn't really inform council. So we're slowly getting there to work with each of the line department managers. We now provide, even in the first quarter, a year-end forecast of where we think we're going to be at the end of the year. So where do you think we're going to end up as an entity? What confidence will council have in that number? What major items should council be aware of that could impact that number? And importantly for administration, what mitigating measures, if any, should administration be taking to mitigate any negative consequences based on this year-end forecasting? So that's what it's all about. It's new, it's never been done before in Brooks that way, but it is best practice to do it that way. Again, in addition, there's always timing differences in the budget. So for instance, the paving tax levy, the revenue for that will all be levied in May. We'll get the whole $1.2 million. We don't get it every month. We'll be levying it in May. It will be booked in May. So the previous methodology assumed everything happened monthly, 1/12 over the course of the year. Well, a lot of the operations don't work that way. Winter control, it's heavy November, well, October maybe. You know, Public Works will start buying sand, gravel, preparing for the winter season. November, December, January, February, March. You know, that's where 90% of the expenditures related to winter control. So what we're doing is booking the budget that way in our budget system to get more realistic, where do we stand against budgets versus our actual expenditures. So that's what we're doing. On the capital side, this report isn't as informative, but again, we're striving to not only provide financial information related to the capital programs, we're trying to provide the narrative to council, for council and the ratepayers understand, has the project been tendered? Where does it stand? Where's it, you know, where's it going to, besides the financial aspects, is it going to be over or under budget? Where is it in the pipe? Has it been awarded? Is it in design phase? What's the expectations? So that gives council some confidence that staff are proceeding. And if things can't proceed, we'll be saying to council, as in the case of the skateboard park, well, yeah, it was in the budget this year, but realistically, construction won't be starting till next year. So again, that's those narratives that we want to articulate in the variance report to council. So again, the two reports, again, the financial statements at the end of the year have some validity, but they basically confirm the information that's in these quarterly reports to council. This being the first quarter, it's conservative in its estimates. It's conservative in its year-end estimates, but there's some big items that council needs to be aware of. Generally, when I prepare these, we talk about it at a high level and talk about where we stand from salary perspective, from cost of goods, major revenue sources, not so much from departments. And you'll see in the analysis, it's quite clear that if an item relates to policing, obviously the variance is going to show up in the policing budget. So we do provide those two views, but the commentary is done at a high level based on, you know, what we call areas of focus, salaries and benefits, contracted services, materials and supplies, and there may be variances. So I'll just run through them quickly, but at the high level, big impacts. Right away, we're projecting a year-end surplus, and let me get the right number here. On the tax-supported side, of a surplus of roughly $333,000. That's being impacted mainly by a very, very favorable impact on RCMP billings. RCMP billings, our costs are pooled across all the municipalities, and then they go through a reconciliation process. How many staff did we actually have? And we get credited. Well, the first quarter reconciliation, well, this is confusing, but again, since the province uses a different fiscal period than municipalities, their fiscal end is March 31st. So during the fourth quarter, their fourth quarter, they provide a year-end projection. They basically said, you've been understaffed all year. We're going to credit you on our first quarter payment. So on the first quarter payment, they're giving a credit. We should be paying roughly $1 million. They're going to be crediting us $800,000. However, that does not include further year-end reconciliations. So administration has netted that projected credit down to roughly $550,000. So reconciliations are still required for non-personnel items, equipment, pool cost, capital expenditures, maintenance items. So we'll have to wait for that reconciliation. But again, we're expecting roughly $550,000 net credit at a minimum related to RCMP. Other notable variances are unfavorable staffing variances are projected to be roughly 190 by the end of the year. That will be highly predicated on how many vacancies are filled and what the turnover rate is. So council may recall over the last two budget deliberations, the amount of takebacks in the budget or allowances for staff vacancies has increased significantly from 0.5% to 2.5%. So we budgeted less in our salaries, and if we don't have the turnover, we will spend the money. There's two emergency repairs, one council's very aware of, related to the aquatic center, so there was a separate report gone to council dealing with that. And there may or may not be some concerns with some one-time costs. So we had the annual fire alarm inspection. There was a list of deficiencies. Those deficiencies must be acted on to make sure our facilities are secure and safe. Those repairs will total $35,000. There is money in the base budgets, but that means something else may not get done. So this is the big ticket item. So I'm showing in the variances. And when we get to the second quarter, that variance may or may not be mitigated. So I do that in the revenue forecast. There aren't many significant variances in the revenue forecast. When I talk about looking at the timing, you can see that if you look at the first quarter, we've achieved 40% of our budget in interest earnings in the first quarter. We were projected to receive roughly 32% of our total annual interest in the first quarter. That's predicated on the assumptions we made in the budget that interest rates will be declining all the way through the year. So it's not an even, our interest earnings change dramatically. They'll keep on going down until May. Then in May, we'll get another big infusion because we'll have $14 million of tax revenue coming in, which will then reinvest and enhance our interest earnings for the balance of the year. So those are the type of nuances that are in the report. So that's it in a nutshell. There are some more specific details, but the RCMP is a big one. Again, RCMP is tracking to be not at full staffing levels. So by third quarter, our third quarter this year, we'll be having more in-depth discussion with the RCMP to give council a better heads up where we may be receiving another credit prior to the end of the year relating to current year staffing levels. So there's various adjustments there and there on the tax side, but overall we're trending for a favorable surplus at year end. Again, first quarter early, similar with the utilities. Utility budget is highly dependent on the weather. Wet summers will reduce water consumption significantly. Dry summers will increase water consumption. So if we have a dry summer, we'll likely have a more significant surplus in the utility budget than we're currently forecasting. But it's too early to make those estimates in the budget. So that's it on the operating side. On the capital side, that's under Appendix C. To date, there's 29 projects, including those carry-forward numbers. Some of those carry-forward numbers have been consolidated into, if there was a playground program last year and it was consolidated, you can see the amended budget shows the 225 number of 30,000, the carry forward, which council just approved of 80,000 for a revised total expenditure expected for playground equipment on Schedule C under line 10 of 110,000. And again, the work has not started, it's not completed. Staff are, again, looking at what modules they wish to replace and at what venues. And we'll have more detail, obviously, by the second quarter variance report. The next schedule is the schedule council requested, and we will continue to provide this in the quarterly variance report, which is Appendix D, which outlines the reserve continuity. So Appendix D, if you refer to it, it starts with the opening balance of our various reserves. So you can see there's a lot more reserves than are shown on the financial statements. On the financial statements, the reserves are grouped, but we actually have each of these on our internal books. So it starts with the opening balance. It shows the $3.9 million that are in the tax budget and utility budgets, and those are the contributions that will be made to reserves in 225. It shows the commitments that were predicated in the approved 225 budget, but it also shows the commitments that are needed to fund the 224 carry forwards. It also shows the commitments for the operating budget. Now, council may recall that 738,000, roughly 500,000 were one-time items that council says we'll use the 224 surplus to fund these one-time items in the 225 operating budget. So there's 738,000 draws from reserves, 500,000 is to fund those one-time items that council specifically approved in the 2025 budget deliberations. You'll see a column, which is a new column, post-budget approvals. So if council does approve any amendments to reserve draws during the course of the years, we'll be tracking them. So each quarter variance report will have this tracking sheet that basically says, you know, yes, the starting balance was $13.2 million. At the end of the year, we're projecting it to be $10.7 million. During this, each quarterly report, if capital programs are completed and under budget, obviously we will not be making those draws. So if things go well and projects do come under, those monies that are currently showing as reserve contributions under the 225 budget or the 224 carry forward budget, those fundings will be released and will increase the reserve balance by December 31st. So I would expect that number to go up from the 10.7 million based on the probability of some of those capital projects coming in under budget. So that concludes my report.
Okay, any questions on that? No? Okay. Got off easy here. Yeah.
Easier.
Okay, to the motion. All those in favor? Okay, carried. Okay, need a mover for this motion here that May 12th to the 18th, 2025 be hereby proclaimed as National Nursing Week in the City of Brooks. Mover for that motion. Need a mover, Councillor Goodenough. Okay, Manager of Administration, Amy Romans.
Thank you. Through the chair to mayor and council. Administration has received a request from the Alberta Association of Nurses to proclaim May 12th to 18th as National Nursing Week. This week is an opportunity to express our gratitude and appreciation for the nurses who work tirelessly to ensure our well-being. Their dedication and hard work often go unrecognized, yet they continue to serve with unwavering commitment. Therefore, administration recommends that council proclaim May 12th to 18th, 2025 as National Nursing Week in the City of Brooks.
Okay, any questions? Okay, to the motion, all those in favor? Carried. Okay, need a mover for this motion that May 26th to the 30th, 2025 be hereby proclaimed as Alberta Rural Health Week in the City of Brooks. Mover for that motion, Councillor Wardrop. Okay. Romans, Administration Manager.
Thank you. Through the chair to mayor and council. Administration has received a request from the Alberta Rural Health Professions Action Plan, or RPAP, to proclaim May 26th to 30th as Alberta Rural Health Week. This week celebrates and recognizes the people, communities, organizations, and initiatives that support and strengthen rural health care in Alberta. Over 18% of Albertans reside in rural and remote areas, while less than 7% of family physicians serve in rural areas, with similar ratios for other healthcare workers. RPAP will be showing the life-changing impacts of rural healthcare and sharing their dedicated efforts of healthcare teams working in rural and remote areas on their social media during the week. Therefore, administration recommends that council proclaim May 26th to 30th as Alberta Rural Health Week in the City of Brooks.
Okay, any questions to the motion? All those in favor? Carried. Need a mover for this motion here that council approve increasing the community spray parks 2025 budget to $200,000 for the Upland Spray Park project, with the additional $100,000 funded from the Canada Community Building Fund. Councillor Nesbitt. Okay, Director of Public Works and Utilities, Mr. Sari.
Thank you. Through the chair to mayor and council. A community spray parks program was approved in 2024 capital budget to add a spray park in communities throughout Brooks, as per the attached budget information in council's motion. At the time, it was estimated these parks would cost around $100 a square foot, plus additional funds required to bring in the water and sewer and power. An estimated recurring annual budget of $100,000 was approved. In June of 2024, it was determined that the 24 spray park construction would be deferred to 2025. The reason for deferral is that based upon estimates, it would cost more than just $100,000. It would take 2 years to get the project done. The intent was to carry the 24 budget over of $100,000 forward to match the $100,000 in 2025. Quotes received for the recommended spray park totaled $160,000. On water and sewer and power were estimated at $40,000. At the March 6, 2025 Outdoors Committee meeting, the Outdoors Committee recommended proceeding with a community spray park on Upland Road. It was identified that the 2025 funds of $100,000 were not added to the 2025 annual budget as a program. This meant that there were not enough funds to complete the recommended project with only the carry forward. As recommended by the Finance Department, $100,000 to be drawn from the Canada Community Building Fund. Operational impacts are expected to be minimal, with a very high level of estimate of 800 cubic meters of potable water to be used annually, with minimal on-site operations needed for spray park maintenance. Recommendation is that council approve increasing the community spray parks 2025 budget to $200,000 for the Upland Spray Park project, with the additional $100,000 funded from the Canada Community Building Fund.
Okay, thank you, Director Sari. Okay, any questions? Councilor Jessica.
Yeah, so I've had some concerns about this for a long time. Some of them have been dealt with in the design and the water conservation parts of it. Now, if I understand correctly, this is the intent is to carry this forward to different communities over time. The budget commitment at this time is for just the one site. So depending on how that project turns out and what happens to our budget going forward in future years, will be a decision to be made whether to carry forward with them or not. But from the reserve report and everything, this won't bring any undue hardship to our financial situation. Would that be correct, CFO McKinnon?
Well, I'll let every council member determine how they feel about that, but obviously, every project has to be balanced against the totality. So council may recall, during the 2025 budget deliberations, administration did prioritize the projects. We'll be doing that same exercise in 2026 and future years. At least give council a heads up to say, well, you know, as you heard me say during the budget deliberations, you know, the reinvestment on the capital side will always be a challenge for this municipality and all municipalities because of reduced funding levels under provincial and federal funding programs.
Okay, any other questions? I think your concern is, I think there was a plan to embed it every year, but it would depend on every council every year too, but yeah, okay. Yeah, Councillor Goodenough.
I'm concerned about, and maybe I just need clarification from Director McKinnon. Are we taking now $100,000 that would be awarded for next year? So they're starting off at $0? Because we're giving them $100,000 now, right? Like how's,
So
just need some clarification on this.
annually, we get allocations both for local government fiscal framework, which is the old MSI, and Canada Build Fund, which is the old gas tax program. So our allocation under the gas tax program, which this program was, that was identified as the funding source last year. This year's allocation is roughly 956,000, give or take. They haven't finalized. So none of that has been allocated to any projects yet. So if council were to approve this item, the available balance of the unspent 2025 Canada Build Fund would be reduced by 100,000, but there's been no further commitments. Staff, I've had a discussion internally with staff to say, when the second quarter variance report comes back to council, we should clean up some of our old MSI money. So the government, when it changed from MSI to local fiscal framework, gave a specific timeline when you have to report out that you have no MS money. If you've got any MSI money left uncommitted, they're going to scoop it. So during the second quarter report, you're likely to see some funding amendments to our capital program to make sure that we don't have to return any MSI money that we committed to existing projects.
Just a clarification again, you say if we don't spend the LGFF money, they take
No.
it back?
The LGF is a different thing. They've transitioning from MSI
Oh, okay.
to LGF. So the old MSI allocations are still being reported as such. So if those aren't committed, they will scoop them back.
Okay, okay. Council, good enough.
I'm going to approach this another way, because I don't think I got the answer I wanted. I'm curious, so next year, for next council, whatever they decide, if parks are costing $200,000, we're looking now at every 2 years of allocating money, right? So putting aside $100,000 every year, so the next park would not be until 2027. Is that kind of what we're saying?
Okay, maybe I'll start over. Council was advised that administration would be updating our 10-year capital forecast.
Yeah.
So the prior practice was a 10-year capital forecast was developed by administration. It was refreshed every 5 years. That doesn't cut it in today's environment. It has to be refreshed every year. As we know, prices go up. Those should be reflected in the forecast. Our funding, we know, is pretty well stagnant. So if prices are going up, the affordability of that program that was presented to council under that 10-year forecast is shifting. Council needs to know that it's shifting and what's the action plan to deal with it. The action plan could be, well, we may have to phase A, B, and C, or we may have to look at additional revenue sources. So as I mentioned, I'll be coming forward prior to the 2025 budget deliberations with some suggestions of enhancements to our revenue flows that could allow and mitigate the impacts of updating the capital plan. Because when the capital plan is updated, there won't be enough, those financial resources that were predicated in the plan 5 years ago have changed. So council needs to get a refresh of what it looks like. It's not going to be doom and gloom, but the message is, it's a dynamic process. The impacts of tariffs, specifically on our heavy equipment related to public works, our graders and the like, most of those are procured and manufactured in the States. If we're hit with tariffs on a grader, we're looking at, hundreds of thousands of dollars of cost increases. Those aren't in the current fiscal plan. So that's why we need to update it. So yes, the plan has to be updated, and it may mean certain things. Not that council has to defer them, but council will definitely have to change the financing strategy to achieve them.
Good. Are you good? Are you good enough? Okay, any other questions? Okay, to the motion, all those in favor? Carried. Okay, development permit application 25D25, need a mover for this motion here. Who's going to make the motion? Need a mover for the motion, Councillor Idris. Okay, this is a long one here. Moved by Councillor Idris that council approve development permit application 25D25 with the following conditions. Development to conform to application, including any plans and drawings deemed complete by the development officer on April 15th, 2025, and to land use bylaw 1412 unless otherwise approved by the development authority. Development must be completed in its entirety in accordance with the approved plans and conditions. Any revisions to the approved plans must be submitted for approval to the development authority. All relevant safety code permits, for example, building, electrical, gas, and plumbing, must be obtained from an accredited agency pursuant to the Safety Codes Act. A copy of all final inspections indicating compliance must be filled with the city immediately following the receipt of the same. All surface water must drain from the building to the site of the street or lane and shall not adversely affect neighboring properties. The site must meet the minimum drainage grade of 2% away from the buildings located on the lot. Should retaining walls be required, they are to be constructed at the expense of the property owner and developer. Suitable measures to ensure the above is adhered to must be employed from the onset of the development and shall remain in place throughout the stages of the excavation, construction, and landscaping. And the property owner developer is to repair or reinstate or pay for the repair of reinstatement to original condition of any city-owned infrastructure, including but not limited to street furniture, curbing, sidewalk, boulevard landscaping, and tree planting that may be damaged or destroyed or otherwise harmed by the development and/or building operations on the site. All repair or reinstatement work must be completed by a city-approved contractor. The property owner developer must notify the city if they're going to have to destroy or replace any city-owned infrastructure. The applicant shall meet the requirements of the Alberta Fire Code. The applicant shall meet all or any provincial or federal regulations that apply. The applicant shall ensure compliance with the Historical Resources Act and obtain approval under the Historical Resources Act as required. Okay. Now you got the easy part, Bailey.
Through the chair to mayor and council, thank you very much for reading all that. The City of Brooks has received a development permit application to replace an existing shed at 50 Evergreen Park Close. So the proposed shed will be constructed as a historically accurate replica of the original design, which was done by A.S. Dawson, who was a CPR engineer and the first resident of the Brooks CPR house. So this shed is going to be replaced and it'll be more historically accurate to align with the rest of that property, which is landmarked as a historical site. This property is zoned direct control in the land use bylaw, and as such, that means that all development permit applications made in this district must be brought to council to act as the development authority for consideration. So the replacement of the shed is going to be to remove the existing 120 square foot shed and then construct the historically accurate 320 square foot shed in its place. Within the direct control designation, council has the discretion to determine applicable requirements for height, site coverage, and setbacks. But for your consideration, this proposed development is consistent with the regulations that we have in place for accessory buildings in the residential single detached district. So the proposed height, site coverage, and setbacks meet the RSD standards and wouldn't require any variances or waivers from any other measurable provisions of the land use bylaw. The complete development permit application and corresponding site plans are attached for your reference. There's 3 options. Council could deny the development permit application. Council can approve the development application 25D25 with the conditions previously read. Or council can approve the development permit application with amendments to any of the conditions as determined. There are no financial implications along with this recommendation, and there's no direct link to the strategic focus areas. Therefore, it is recommended that council approve development permit application 25D25 with the conditions listed. Thank you.
Okay, any questions? No questions? Okay, to the motion. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Need a mover for this motion here for the Eco Brooks appointments. Who's going to make the motion? Councillor Wardrop. Moved by Councilor Wardrop that Tatiana Mereshkonova and Megan Harper Flores be appointed to the City of Brooks Environmental Advisory Committee as members at large for a first 3-year term commencing April 22nd, 2025 and ending April 21st, 2028. The Manager of Administration, Romans.
Thank you through the chair to mayor and council. The Environmental Advisory Committee, also known as Eco Brooks, is made up of 12 members, and out of those members, there cannot be more than 7 members at large. Tatiana Marishnikova and Megan Harper Flores have applied to serve on the committee. Tatiana is passionate about recycling and water management, and her experience living in and working in Asia showed her how education and community involvement can significantly impact recycling efforts. Megan is interested in serving on the committee as a way to be more actively involved in the community, and she is passionate about environmental and sustainability education programming for K-12 students. Therefore, the committee and administration are recommending that Tatiana Marishnikova and Megan Harper Flores be appointed to Eco Brooks as members at large for first 3-year terms, commencing April 22nd, 2025 and ending April 21st, 2028.
Okay, any questions? Okay, to the motion, all those in favor? Carried. I need a mover for this motion here for the WIC committee appointments. Who's going to make that motion? Councillor Nesbitt. Now, these names are a little bit tougher. Okay, moved by Councillor Nesbitt, the council will appoint the following individuals to the Welcoming and Inclusive Committee, otherwise known as WIC, for a term of 2 years commencing April 22nd, 2025 and ending April 21st, 2027. The stakeholders, Amanda Goodenough, Sandra Burns, Victoria Mulbire, Rhodas Massey, Sean Beaton, members at large, Joseph Octavius, Fumi Olafin, Okasi Nuni, George Sanchez, Ikrane Siraj Mohammed, and Benedict Mobinimpa. Okay, Inclusion Coordinator Clausen. How did I do in the names?
Pretty good, Mayor Petrie. So through the chair to mayor and council, I'm here to present the recommended appointments for the Welcome and Inclusive Committee. Following our call for applications on March 13th, we did receive strong interest from community members. After a thoughtful review of each applicant's experience, community involvement, and alignment with the committee's goals, I'm pleased to recommend the following individuals for appointment to the WIC committee for a 2-year term, starting April 21st of 2025 until April 21st of 2027. For stakeholders, we would like to appoint the following: Amanda Goodenough from SPEC, Sandra Burns from READY, Victoria Mulbire from FCSS, Rhodas Massey from BCIS, and Sean Beaton from Grasslands School Division. For our members at large, we would like to appoint the following: Joseph Octavius, Funmi Olafin, Okizi Ihonaya, George Sanchez, Ikran Siraj Mohammed, and Benedict Bonipa. These individuals bring a wide range of lived experience and perspectives that will greatly enrich the work of the committee and help us advance our strategic goal of creating a welcoming and inclusive community. Therefore, administration respectfully recommends that council approve the appointments.
Okay, any questions? Councillor Idris.
Thank you. This is exciting. I know we have started working on this, I think, about a year ago, and we passed the bylaw, and I'm happy to see the nominations coming forward. I also understand this group is going to work with you on the recently acquired funding through the local immigration partnership. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, and how does this committee and the LIB work together?
So with the LIP, I'll be working with agencies, as I've already been doing. Part of what the members at large and the other stakeholders will be doing is kind of getting a picture from other people in the community to see kind of like what's happening within the community, what people would like to see, and then from there just provide some recommendations on what we can do as a city to keep this city welcoming and inclusive to all that live here.
Okay, any other questions? Councillor Woodruff.
Thanks. So please refresh my memory. I can't remember the numbers in the bylaw. But does this complete the number of recommended stakeholders. So I have a full complement of stakeholders as it was recommended in the bylaw, or are we missing any stakeholders? And is this a full complement of the potential members at large that we can have on the committee?
So the total number was anywhere from 10 to 15 members sitting on the committee at all times. So this would put us at 11, which means that for stakeholders, we could maybe take one more if somebody shows interest. And for members at large, that leaves us at anywhere from 1 to 2 more people that we could take if there was more interest shown.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? I agree probably with Councillor Idris and everybody else on council. Very excited about this committee here and what it will do for Brooks here. So it's very good. Okay, to the motion, all those in favor? Carried. Need a mover for this motion, the appointment of the City of Brooks Arts, Culture, Heritage Board, and mover for this motion here, Councillor Wardrop. Okay, Councillor Wardrop, moved by Councillor Wardrop that Haley Amusa be appointed to the Arts, Culture, and Heritage Board for the first 2-year term commencing April 22nd, 2025, and ending April 21st, 2027. Natasha.
Thank you. Through the chair to Mayor and Council. City of Brooks Arts, Culture, Heritage Board's mandate is to assist both council and the city in providing opportunities for arts, culture, and heritage programs, events, and facilities in the City of Brooks. The board consists of 6 citizens at large and 1 city councillor. The open position was advertised and there was 1 application received. The application was reviewed and the Arts, Culture, Heritage Board would like to forward to City Council the appointment of Haley Almusa for a first term as citizen at large, commencing April 22nd, 2025 and ending April 21st, 2027.
Okay, any questions to the motion? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, need a mover for this motion here. For the janitorial services, RFP, need a mover for that motion. Councillor Goodenough. Moved by Councillor Goodenough, the council award the 3-year janitorial services contract for the JBS Canada Centre, Brooks Public Library, Parks, Public Works Building, Community Cultural Centre, and Centennial Regional Arena to Sky Blue Cleaning in the amount of $167,725.56 per year for a total of $503,176.68 excluding GST. And Interim Director of Recreation and Protective Services, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor Petrie. Most of the work was done upon my arrival. I just did some fine tuning with the staff. Typically, I wouldn't have done all the attachments attached to the report, but being new, I included the whole, the potential agreement and the request for proposal. There is some urgency with this approval this evening. The contractor is done. And that's all I have to say, Mayor Petrie. I'll be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, any questions? No. Okay, to the motion. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, questions from the media.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Regarding the budget information, please. And I'm going to apologize, there's lots of questions here, but that's what happens when you're the only media.
Yep.
Mr. Mayor.
Just remember, there's an Oilers game on tonight.
Mr. Mayor, yes.
And Councillor Wardrop really wants
Toronto
to see
playing?
it. What's that?
Is Toronto playing
Oh,
tonight? Then I'm going to take my time.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
On page 29 of the document, Mr. Mayor, sorry,
I'm going to defer everything to Finance McKinnon here. so-
Yes, but do I not address the mayor?
Yes, you do, yeah.
Thank you.
And I have to find it here.
On page
Go.
29, the driving factors of the expenditure are 187,738,000 unfavorable results from positions being filled and less staffing turnover. Can you please explain that to me?
Finance McKinnon?
Through your worship, as part of the budget deliberation, council is apprised what it would cost if all positions were filled, and then council makes a decision of what reductions it wishes to make in the budget to account for staff turnovers, vacancies, and the like. So in prior years, that number was modest. It was increased in the 223-4 budget, and that ratio was kept the same. History has shown to date we're not achieving that level of staff vacancy or staff turnover, so we may have some variances if it continues that way to the balance of the year.
Okay, in 2024, were there not some consultants brought into the city to help?
Go ahead, what was the question again?
I'm sorry. In 2024, were there not some consultants that were brought into the city to assist staff?
I'm trying to think. I can't remember on that. I know, can anybody think of any? Last year, consultants that were brought in to assist staff.
Or administration, staff, council, were there not consultants that were brought into the city to assist?
And I was trying to think if that was 2025. We did bring in somebody for 2025, but not 2024.
Okay, so there's no one for 2024.
Because
okay.
the person was hired in 2025, in January 2025.
Okay, would you tell me which budget portion they will be paid out of? Because I'm not sure if that will be, I'm sorry, tax-supported or self-supported.
Yeah, can you help us there, Finance McKinnon?
Sure, again, through your worship, that could be either, but it would show under contracted services regardless.
Correct. Contracted services are showing in both tax-supported and self-supported.
So you're asking which one?
Yes.
Do you know which one?
Well, it could be both, depending on the nature of the consultant that's hired.
Yeah.
Okay, and just for clarification.
We can dig back for you if you want. Like, we would know where that came from, or, right?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And the other thing is, I'm sorry, what is contracted? What's general services? I know what contracted is, but what would general services be an example? Anything?
Hauling of snow, those type of things, repairing of mechanical equipment at the pool. So it could be any type of, it doesn't necessarily mean they're consultants. It could be, tradespeople. It could be a variety of areas under that budget.
Correct. So the contracted are anyone that you obviously give a contractor to, and the general could be a group that maybe comes in to assist with the snow. Because
Right.
they wouldn't be contracted.
Well, they would be
obviously.
contracted.
Somebody who helps the city clear the snow in an emergency
If
would be
they're,
contracted?
I don't know what the public works practice is, but if we hire contractors to haul snow, that would fall under that category.
Okay, then what's general services?
Well, it's a combination. It's just a funny word that's been used, but it's basically anyone that's hired to do work on behalf of the city. Could be tradespeople, it could be our assessor, it could be our auditors, it could be a variety of type of engagements.
Okay, now just for my clarification, so that I understand Appendix D, you have $41,000 in the 2025 post-budget approvals for operating contingency, it looks like. That example would be the wave pool part. Is that correct?
Partially correct. The 44,000 is a commitment that council's made to undertake this expenditure. In the RFD, council to adopt it. It basically says staff will endeavor to find savings within the budget, but if not, it will come out of the reserve. So we're showing it as an earmark.
So that says 41 though, not 44.
Well, 41, correct.
Okay.
So the 41 is sitting there as an earmark for now. If staff endeavors to find savings elsewhere, and if we do have more favorable variances, obviously, there'll be no need to draw from the reserve.
Okay, you also mentioned that there potentially could be some MSI money that the city may have to return. Do you have a number on that?
Not off the top of my head, but we'll be reporting at the next variance report, and if there isn't, I can assure council, the city will not be returning any MSI money. So, and that will be fully reported out during the second quarter variance report.
And it should be pointed out with that one, because that'll be at the end of June, we'll probably hear it the first week in July. Things should even out because the provincial government's new budget is underway there at that point.
Generally, the second quarter variance report, because of the timing, like
Yeah.
June 30th, the first council meeting is probably the first week of June, or sorry, July.
July, yeah.
So it'd be this, we'll be reporting at the second
Yeah.
council meeting in July.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sorry, just for clarification, what is the update on the sewer upgrades? Like, what upgrades are there going to be? When are they beginning? How major of a project are we talking about here? Like 4, 5, 10-year project?
This was, again, is predicated in the 10-year capital plan, but the one I'm referring to is going from basically lagoon system to a mechanical plant. And an application for funding has been submitted to the province for that project, and council will be updated once we're apprised of the minister's decision on that project. Regardless, administration is proceeding to do the necessary work to make sure the undertakings are happening in a sequence that will allow the project to happen on an expedited basis. And given that's a major capital project, I would use the word expedient very loosely, because it will be a multi-year project.
Okay, so this is part of the upgrade to the lagoon project.
It's substituting the lagoons. So we'll be going, right now the plan is to go to a mechanized treatment system, not a lagoon treatment process.
Thank you. And Councillor Jessica, you kind of vaguely, or there was a discussion about Communities in Bloom, I think. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. But it just reminded me, when is the edible garden going to start to be cleaned out? When do you want the public's assistance?
The EID was graciously provided some manpower and some equipment to clean out one bed that was being overrun by willows. And so they've been hacked down. I'll be meeting with a contractor to get that cleaned out and then bring the other beds up to operational condition in the next week or so. Planting is planned for the weekend after the May long weekend.
And that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay. We can adjourn the meeting and move to adjourn the meeting. Councillor Idris motions to adjourn the meeting at 5:58 p.m. All those in favor?